Hi guys, and welcome to a new video. So last week I was in Hyderabad and I happened to visit both the Golconda Fort and the Qutub Shahi too. This, if you really think about it, is a big simple or a big remnant of one dynasty, but now because of all the other developments it looks a bit separate. Two of these structures belong to the Qutub Shahi dynasty, which ruled over Golconda. So Qutub Shahi dynasty is one of the 5 Deccan sultanates. They ruled over Golconda from 1518 to 1687, and its founder was Qutub Shah, who was a Turkish governor of Bahmani region. And the Golconda kingdom spanned from the lower reaches of Godavari and Krishna rivers and extended to the Bay of Bengal coast. Hyderabad, or the Golconda kingdom, was well known for its reserves of gold and diamonds. It was a very rich kingdom, as we will see in this video. So the Qutub Shahi dynasty consists of 7 rulers, 7 kings, before Aurangzeb came from the north and annexed Golconda. So now that we have covered the basics of the Qutub Shahi dynasty and Golconda Fort, let's get to some storytelling. So this is the second time that I have been to Golconda Fort in my life, and this time my friends decided to take the help of a guide, and they found this guide, or the guide came to us, and they liked this guide so much that they literally abandoned me in the middle of the fort and went after the guide. I had to go search for these guys only to find them so mesmerized by the words of this man. That is the demo description of Golconda Fort that he was giving. And thus the story of the Golconda Fortress begins. And before we go on, I want to give him a big shout out and many other people like him who are always present in these monuments and historical places, who give us so much information about these places. They are truly a treasure, and they remember all of these details and climb these places up and down, entertaining and engaging each of the tourists that come there. That is, I wouldn't be able to do that. So here are the weird things that I heard about Golconda Fort from a guy. Cross-checked in Google and ChatGPT. Yes, Hyderabad has 20 or more diamond mines in the hills surrounding. These mines were the sole income resource for the people in Golconda kingdom, and obviously it was the main source of revenue or main source of income for the Qutub Shahi dynasty as well. So is this claim true? Well, if you don't know, both the Kohinoor and the Great Mughal diamond came from Hyderabad. The Great Mughal diamond are 280 carats or 56 grams of diamond, and nobody knows where it is today, even if it's destroyed or not. Some claim that Kohinoor was built out of the Great Mughal diamond. So these two, one of the biggest and most brilliant diamonds, were found from the mines near Hyderabad. These mines were basically discovered accidentally in the 16th century, and the city of Hyderabad, or Bhagnagar or Bhagyanagar, was built solely with the wealth of these diamond mines. And Abdullah, and we will call him Abdullah from now on because I also forgot the name. Abdullah pointed us to this courtyard kind of a thing, and he said that this was where all the diamond trade happened. In the 16th and 17th century, there was no money, or money was quite less, and all trade were based on the barter system. So what did they exchange for diamonds? the exchange was equal amount of salt, which he said was white gold. We would give 1 kg diamond for 1 kg salt. 1 kilo diamond for 1 kilo salt. That was how the barter system, or that was the exchange rate at that time. I protested twice on this figure because it seemed so bizarre. And his reply was, well, what is the point of having diamonds if you can't eat delicious food? So, I don't know. You go figure. And the second most sought after and costliest thing in this courtyard, the courtyard market, was, can you guess? Black gold, which is black pepper. These structures that you see, as far as Abdullah goes, the sleeping quarters of the army or the troops of the Golconda kingdom. And only the unmarried ones. Married ones got other quarters. These things had roofs which the Mughals came in and bombarded, so there are no roofs anymore. So then he said two things. One, that the entire workforce and the military personnel in Golconda kingdom or in Hyderabad consisted solely of African slaves. And the second thing is that there were no elephants in their military apparently. So of course, one of the first things that we did upon getting back home was to take Google, and my friend took ChatGPT and cross-reference this information, because obviously it sounds like an outrageous claim. But turns out there was a steady flow of African slaves coming from Africa into India during that time. I don't know about the elephants though. Like, why would you not have elephants in a war where you know that they have a fair advantage in fighting? I don't understand that. He also mentioned something about Yemenis there, but honestly I zoned out. So if you know about any Yemeni Hyderabadi link, please let me know in the comment section. The bit about the African slaves was so interesting to me. My next video is going to be on African slave trade in medieval India. So tune in for that, and if you want to get the notification, don't forget to subscribe. This is a very fascinating thing about the Golconda Fort, which is the second largest fort in India, by the way, if you didn't know. There are these diamond-like structures everywhere in the ceiling of the Golconda Fort, especially in some strategic places. These diamond shapes or these walls can transmit sound in very fascinating ways. Now that I think about it, these people were known diamond traders, or they were excellent diamond traders, and they may have cut diamonds in these shapes which transmitted light in very fascinating ways. So they must have thought, wait, what about sound then? And maybe that's how they discovered all these diamond shapes and how they reflect and transmit sound. That is a good theory, right? And there are these different tricks that they will show you if you go to Golconda Fort, where the king can listen to what the court members or his visitors were saying from inside his room and judge their character through these walls. And then there is another very interesting thing where if you clap from the entrance kind of a place in that fort, it can be heard right above in the king's quarters. So that's also very fascinating. And Golconda Fort also have telephone walls. What that means is that if you stand into either corners of rooms or a particular room, you get to hear what the people in the corners are saying. Just the corners. If you move from the corners, you won't hear. So these are very innovative ways to use structures to transmit sound. So if you go to Golconda Fort, definitely check that out. Abdullah the guide painted a picture of how life in Golconda would look like. The king only worked 1 day a week, which was on Friday, where everybody else got an off day. And the main or the only duty of the king was to give alms to his subjects, basically. So the alms basically either meant biryani or mandi or bread and kurma. So just as I was heartily laughing at that, he said that in none of the excavations or archaeological studies done on the buildings and structures of Golconda, they never ever found out any structure that resembled a kitchen. Simply because these meals were very hard to make and they could not be made for just one small group of people. Nobody cooked anything in the kitchens, or there were no kitchens to begin with. Instead, they had these community mess halls or community feeding places. I'm very sure that there is a word for that. And only men worked in those places. The dying feminist in me woke up and I asked, so what did all the women do? And then he said that only men did any work in Hyderabad and all the women were just sitting around chit-chatting. Yes, I specifically asked for the meaning of the word that he said, and that's what it means. And my friend corroborated that he has seen women not cooking a meal in Hyderabad, and that most often men were the people who cooked food in Hyderabad, and that a lot of people relied on these community mess halls or community centers for their food. My next question was that how did they survive? How did they live without doing any sort of work? Apparently, when you have 23 diamond mines and a steady flow of slaves from different parts of the world to work for you and to guard you, who has to do any work? Plus, the people in the old times never had much of these great ambitions and motivations that we, the modern people, have. So they really had a very laid off, indolent, lazy life where they did absolutely nothing. What are your thoughts on that? I really want to know what you think of that. So this is at least the picture that I got of the life in Hyderabad from our very dearmost guide. The major portion of the Golconda Fort is dedicated to the queens. And there are 3 tiers of queens. There are Maharanis, there are Ranis, and there is one more, I forgot the name. And they lived, or this combination, this collection of all these queens were called the Antapuram, or as is popularly known, the harems. And Abdullah said that the king's glory in those times was not in the amount of wealth that he owned or in the amount of land that he had control over, but the number of women in the Antapuram or the harem. And the lowest, according to him, the lowest number is 300 something. Obviously, we went to Google and ChatGPT and cross-referenced this as well. They did not have 300 queens, or they were not considered wives as he put them. The kings would only have a few wives that he recognized as queens probably, and everybody else were part of the harem. So he is both right and wrong, because there would be a lot of women in the palace, but they won't all be considered as queens or wives of the king, the legitimate wives, that is. So the fort basically is the king's heaven, where he lived among all these women that he brought into his life, basically. This fort, which is the palace, which is actually a palace, would have been studded with amazing gold and diamonds and really decorated with all these ornamental paradas, and it must have, and let's not forget how the lighting also must have worked at that time. It must have been absolutely gorgeous when it was actively hosting people. It was nothing like the dark, stony structure that we see today. It's but a magnificent site, true to the glory and wealth of its times. We don't get to see any of that now. It was mostly destroyed by the Mughals when they attacked, and then by Indians, the public, after it was abandoned. The Qutub Shahi dynasty is known to be a very liberal kingdom or dynasty. They inherited the land from the Kakatiya dynasty before them, and there is actually a temple on the very top of Golconda Fort which is still intact without any damage. People still go and worship in that temple. Nothing has happened to it, even though Aurangzeb led an army into Golconda Fort. That is one hell of a story. There are two tombs in the Qutub Shahi tomb complex or necropolis made for two Hindu dancers, Premavati and Bhagyamati. Bhagyanagar or Bhagnagar, which is the original name of Hyderabad, is taken, or is the origin of that name is from Bhagyamati or Bhagmati. She converted to Islam by taking the name Hyder Begum, and that's how Bhagyanagar or Bhagnagar got renamed into Hyderabad. Now we have all heard the story of Ramdas, who famously stole from one of these Qutub Shahi kings to build Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. And he was caught, but the king did not kill him. He kept Ramdas alive in a prison for 12 years, after which he was let out and he wrote all these great poetic works about Ram after he was let out and while he was in prison. The Golconda Kingdom, or the city of Hyderabad, was a very harmonious, peaceful, idle yet extremely rich city or kingdom, where they had enough diamond to exchange it for 1 kilo of salt. What do you think of all these stories? Do you find them interesting? If you do, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button and share this with others. Hi guys, and here is the first book I have written, Life in a Ziploc Bag. It's the story of 4 teens living in a city and the impactful reality of modern life, where we often chase love, intoxication and adventure. Does it seem like a story that you would be interested in? If so, please check it out on Amazon or Flipkart. And it's also available for direct buying from the publisher itself. All these links are given in the description. Grab your copy now. Thank you.